Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is a quick gain. I was working on this other project in my previous streams, and it's a longer project. It's converting a video file with multiple streams into a bunch of separate files for better editing in REAPER. But I wanted something else to do today that would be something that I can start and finish in one stream, and then I'll go back to that other idea, which is usually how I work. I spin all the plates and keep them all in the air. So I do some of this, I do some of that, and specifically what we want to do today is an answer to a comment on YouTube by Mindaugas Juska. I don't know if that's how you say your name, but in any case, the question is about the Automixer, which is this tool I developed for REAPER, which allows you to take the signal from multiple microphones. And if the microphones are all in the same space, when someone is speaking, the microphone that is directly pointed at the person will pick up that signal a lot louder than the other microphones, but the other microphones in the room will still pick up the signal, just more quietly. And the problem is that that becomes like ambient noise. You can hear the reverb in the room. So what the Automixer does is it takes all the signals from all the microphones and looks at the one that is louder. And if a microphone is louder, it will make every other microphone quieter to compensate. And that's usually used when everyone is in the same room and there are different microphones, but it can also be used in other contexts. If you are recording via Skype with someone else, it may be good to have an Automixer just to even out the places where multiple people may be speaking, especially when someone's starting a sentence when someone else is ending the sentence. That can be a spike in the levels. But if you have an Automixer in the tracks, then the different microphones act as a single microphone that would have been shared by the people. So you can think of a talk show where there is only one microphone and someone is speaking, and then they stop speaking, they hand the microphone to someone else. The effect of using an Automixer is similar to that. I have other videos in this channel in which I go in depth in the code and the logic behind how all this works. But there is this comment. This person wants to re-record the channels separately, and because they want to have control over the noises and not get just one stereo file. So the way this works is there are multiple microphones, and they may be multi-channel, but typically they are mono. And in REAPER, you can only have tracks that have a number of channels multiple of 2, so you would treat that as a stereo track. So you have all these microphones, and they're all stereo microphones or stereo tracks holding mono files. But in any case, the way the Automixer works is it takes all these tracks and it does the automixing, working with the levels as I just explained, and it outputs one signal. So the Automixer is a plugin that has many inputs. If you have like 3 microphones, you have 3 separate inputs, but it has only one output, which is already the mixed signal. And what this person wants is just a different mode of operation. So the Automixer is still going to function the same. It's going to perform exactly the same algorithms, and it's going to process the audio in exactly the same way. He just wants, I'm not sure it's a he, but anyway, what this person wants is just another mode of operation in which the outputs are separate. So instead of mixing the signals and outputting one signal, the person wants me to output multiple signals. So I'll do all the attenuation necessary, but I will still output in different channels. Or, yeah, it's in different channels in this case, because I'm emulating the concept of tracks. It looks like a multi-track thing, but it's actually just in one track. And it's a multi-channel. It's based on multiple channels. Anyway, so I think that this is going to be a quick gain. It's something that I think I can do in one stream. So let's jump right into it. I'm not going to explain everything about the code base. There is another video with the code review if you're interested in that. But I am going to go over the setup to work on these kinds of things, because it's not something that is super well documented anywhere, and it's something that I kind of had to figure out by myself, and I developed this on particular workflow of mine. And I want to show what it looks like. And also I have this new machine that has a new installation of macOS in this machine. It hasn't been fully configured yet, so I will have to show the setup because I don't have the setup already done. So I'll go here to my Reaper repository where I have the effects folder, and I have the effect here. The Automixer is a single file. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna jump into the library, application, support, and Reaper. Oh, another way of doing this, just in case you don't want to memorize anything, you can open Reaper and tell Reaper to open the library directory. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm going to cancel this. I could just have hit and go there. I will open a new project because that project was the one that we are working on the other streams. So there is the options, show Reaper resource path in Explorer Finder. So I can close this one and use this one instead. And here in the effects folder, there will be a bunch of folders that just come with Reaper. I'm going to create a folder for myself. So I'll put my name over here, and then I will drag the Automixer over there. I will actually copy the Automixer, not just move. So now, when I have a new track here on Reaper and I go to the effects and look at the JS effects, I guess I can just look for my name. It will just be there. So working with effects is somewhat different from working with Rescripts. When you are working with Rescripts like we are doing in the other project, you have to load, you have to come here to new action and load a Rescript, and the Rescript may be anywhere in the file system. In fact, this Rescript's source is in my Reaper repository, not in the Reaper configuration settings. So it is on the thing, the Finder window that was on the left. So, and then if you change the location of an action, you have to come here, delete the action, and add a new action to load the Rescript from anywhere in the system, which I guess makes sense, but I much prefer this mode of operation that is completely different, that works on JS effects. The way that this works is if you put the JS effects in the right folder, which is the effects folder in your Reaper configuration, Reaper will just pick this up. So now we are ready to put this in a track, and we can start to edit the source code. But before we do that, I think it's beneficial for me to actually have some tracks to work with as an example. So I'll come here to 2 other tracks and I'll put them as children. And there is already a Rescript that I wrote to set everything up. I could have used that Rescript, but I have not configured my machine yet. So I don't have my repack installation here. And then I don't have the script. I could just load the script, but I think it's nice for me to just redo the setup by hand so you can understand how the tracks are laid out. So let's see. I have here 2 children routes. So in this case, I would have 2 microphones. This would be a microphone and this would be another microphone. So the parent track needs to have 4 channels, because these would be 2 channels and the next 2 channels. These 2 can go to the parent on channels 1 and 2, and then this one will go to the parent on channels 3 and 4. As I said, tracks in Reaper have to have a multiple of 2 of channels, so I cannot have just 1 channel on a track. Ideally, that's what would happen because most microphones are stereo. So I think that is all the setup necessary to make the Automixer work. I don't really remember, it has been a while, but I think this will work. So I can arm this for recording, and this is not picking up the same microphone as the one you are hearing from the stream, but it's picking up a microphone. So with that, I'm going to save a project that will be in the videos folder. Why not? I will create a new folder here for Automixer, just so these example files have somewhere to live. So Automixer RPP, and then I can start recording some example audio. And this is the first microphone. Ideally, I would have multiple microphones open in the room at the same time, but that's not the setup I have right now. Okay, so now I have one recording. I will record another track, and I will try to speak only when this one is not saying anything, but I will try to overlap just a little to kind of mimic what would happen in a real conversation. Okay, so I think I'm ready. Recording some example audio. And I'll start just speaking just on top of microphone. Ideally, I would have multiple microphones open. Now I'll speak on top of what the other person is saying just to see how the Automixer would react. And that is our test. Okay, so now that we have the track set up and we have two source files here, we should play this and we should be able to hear how the Automixer works and also see the different levels here on the different channels. Let's see if this is all set up properly. Recording some example, and I'll start just speaking just microphone. Okay, I'm not actually hearing, I don't have the headphones over here. That's something that is worth mentioning. When we are working with audio effects, there is a chance that we will make mistakes and that these mistakes will result in loud noises. And Reaper has a protection for loud noises. So if something becomes too loud, Reaper will mute that channel. But it's always a good idea to have an extra measure of safety there and mute the master channel. So only when we are sure that everything is okay, we look at the levels and they're all healthy, then we unmute and hear the output. But I guess you were able to hear as I was playing this, though I was not hearing it myself, that when someone else speaks, it attenuates the volume of the first person. We saw that here in the mixer. But let's look at the levels over here, because this part indicates what the levels are on all the different channels. Remember that this track is a 4-channel track. So here there will be 4 meters. And now I have everything muted. I suppose I need to learn the keyboard shortcut mixer. Yeah, so I have the master muted so you won't hear anything. But as I play, you can see here there are 2 channels, so you see only 2 meters. And here there are 4 channels, so you see 2 smaller meters because the other 2 meters would be for channels 3 and 4. I can do this bypassing here on the Automixer. There is already this mode of operation that is bypassing. And what this one does is when I hit play, you can actually see all the levels in the meter at, it should, no, that's not how this works. I don't bypass on the Automixer, I bypass the effect itself. So now I am not doing the automixing at all. And when I play this, you will see 4 bars that represent all the 4 channels. So as you can see, when I made the mistake right here, if you have the Automixer enabled, there is no mode of operation in which the outputs go to channels 3 and 4. They will be muted. And what we are trying to accomplish in this stream, this is a long setup. It's 15 minutes worth of setup. But what we are doing in this stream is add a different mode of operation here, such that this will not be bypassing. It will be doing the auto mixing, so these levels will change and you see the little mixer over here in action. But it will not output only to the first and second channel. It will output to channels 3 and 4 and so on. So that's the goal. Let's jump into the code and try to make it happen. So the first thing I want to do is to change this to add a new mode of operation. We have 2 modes of operation, enabled and bypassed. I think what I want to be clever about the way I name this. So let's think. It could be enable multi-channel output and bypassed. I think I will call it. So this is where I can, let me see how can I arrange these windows. I'll make the Automixer window tiny and on the corner and I'll make this window big because I don't have that much screen space on this streaming setup, and that's so that you can see so that the font is not too small. So what I'm gonna do is call this enabled single track output and enabled multi-track output. And I can see that the stream is lagging behind what I'm typing. I have no idea what's going on there. I kind of noticed this when I was doing the setup, then I noticed that it was okay again, and now it's lagging again. It maybe has to do with NDI and how the different computers are passing the signal. So if this is bad enough, I'll stop and try to restart the stream. You can see that it's lagging behind a lot, but I'm not typing too fast anyway, so I think this should be okay. So when I save this, I wonder if I can have spaces and parentheses on these things. It seems like I can. So enabled single track output, enabled multi-track output, and bypassed. Do I want to call it enable single track output? I think I'll just call it single track output, multiple track output. Okay, so now I have single track output, multi-track output, and bypassed. So now I have 3 different modes of operation. So I think it is fair for me to rename this variable because it's no longer just bypassed, it is mode of operation. So I'm going to save this and reopen this in an external editor, which is going to be Visual Studio Code, so that I can rename globally. Or at least I find that renaming in Reaper is possible, but it's not as good. So I'll open this in a proper editor. It's so unfortunate that you are lagging behind sometimes in this stream. But I'm not typing too fast, it's okay. So, I need to open not this directory, I need to open the Reaper directory. So I will open library application support, Reaper effects, reafac. And I'll look for bypassed, and I will rename this to mode. I'm thinking about mode of operation. I'll just call it mode. I don't think it will be ambiguous. So, all right. So I have the mode slider, and I can reopen this in Reaper. It will reload this, and I need to change this range because now it starts with 0 and goes up to, I forget how this works. Yeah, I think it's the minimum, the maximum, and the default. No, this is the default. This is the minimum, the maximum, the step. So the default will be 0, the minimum is 0, the maximum is 2, and the step is 1. Yeah, so that's the hacky way that these combo boxes work. They're not combo boxes, they're drop-down menus, they're select menus. Depends on who you ask. Anyway, so that's how these combo boxes work in Reaper. And I hope that the stream will pick it up because I am showing the combo box. Yeah, you can see it right here. So now that I have this mode of operation, I think it would be nice to have some variables here that are giving me the mode of operation so that I can compare to the modes. I'll do this like an enum kind of thing. And I am wondering whether I have already an init section to this effect. I don't. So I guess I will put it here, init. These are variables that will be initialized when the effect is loaded, but not changed in any other way. So these are like constants. And I will capitalize the constants. So I will call this mode single track is equal to 0. Is that called? I called it single track output. mode single track output. Oh, I really hate this editor. And now it seems like the stream is picking up. It's not 100% in sync, but it's good enough. So I'll have multi-track output, and I will have bypassed. Is it bypassed or bypassed? So now I have this, and I have to be careful because I changed the slider so that the multi-track output occurs before the bypassed. So the meaning of bypassed has changed. So we need to look at everywhere where we use the mode variable. And I wonder whether I should have this space right here. I think it's better if I don't have this space there. Now I need to look at everywhere where I use the mode variable, and I will use one of these constants for comparison instead. So here I am using the mode. Where is this? So this is a loop where I am doing some shenanigans with the track gain. So this is actually where we are going to change things. This is actually the loop where the auto mixing algorithm is actually happening. And here I have a mode question mark, which is just whether the mode is 0 or 1, because previously this variable used to be called bypassed, so it made sense. I was asking, is this bypassed or not? But now I should ask instead, is the mode of operation equal to the mode bypassed? If so, then do the track gain equals to 1, which is effectively saying, okay, you just did all this work of computing the gain of the track, but if you are in bypassed mode, forget about all that, just set the track gain to 1. So this is kind of undoing the work of the effect up to this point. But the thing here is, if I compare this with mode bypassed, now this makes sense. It's not just the bypassed variable anymore. So now let's reload this in. I keep jumping back and forth between the editors, but now that we have this, and this was the only place where the mode variable was used. Yes. So I think this should be fine. We'll test everything once we are done with all our changes. It should be soon. It should not take too long. So again, this is the loop we were looking at. This is the change we just made. And now we have to look at how the channels are being mixed. So I have a track gain variable that has been computed with a lot of mathematics up to this point. It's not a lot of mathematics. It's one screen full of mathematics, as this stream is not showing you, but it's one screen full of code. And now I'm applying the track gain to the tracks. So I have everything up to this point. I'm just computing the things I need for the display. But the place where I'm actually doing the auto mixing and I am merging all the tracks together, the place where we want to change stuff is right here. So what we are going to do is this loop is doing the merging of the tracks. Let's look at how this loop is working. And then we will see what we need to change. Because it has been a while since I worked on this code base. It's not on the top of my head. So let's see. This is looping over all the channels. It's grabbing the sample from that channel at this particular point in time. Then it is assigning to that value. It's assigning to that value Ooh, no, okay, so that's not what happened here. So previously, I suppose we have already collected the sample. And I think this is necessary because of the look ahead, because there is a look ahead parameter in this effect. yeah, it is right here. There's a look ahead effect in this. There is a look ahead setting in this effect. So I'm not sure what is in the track samples. I suppose it's just the sample for this track. Yeah, it has to do with the look ahead. You can see it right here. So this is the sample that is the sample that I'm actually affecting. So this will be the same. Then what's going to happen here is we are attenuating that track, I suppose. No, we are assigning to that track so that later the look ahead will look at this. So this also stays. These two are saying I still want these two things to happen. Now, what I'm doing is I am muting this channel and I'm adding to the channels like 0 and 1 in our particular example here, but to the two channels here on the left, to the original channels. I'm doing the auto mixing of, I'm mixing together all these different signals in these two lines actually. So right here, I'll have to check what is my mode of operation. I will look at the mode. If it is a single track output, what we are going to do is the same as we did before. And otherwise, oh, actually, when I'm doing the bypass thing, I will also want to do this. So I guess what I'm going to do instead is do the exception. So if I am in the mode of operation bypass or multi-track output, if I am in the mode of operation multi-track output, I will do some special stuff. Otherwise, I will do the regular auto mixing. So at this point, what I want to do is just take this track and I am going to output to this track what I would mix into the original tracks. And of course, I will not mute this. So I will assign to this track what I would have assigned or what I would have mixed into. Pay attention to the plus equal right here. So I'm going to output what would have been mixed into the main output. So I think that about does the change. Now it's a matter of testing. So what I'm gonna do first is play and then change the different modes of operation and see if I make any spikes of loud noises. And also if the meters correspond to my expectations. So I'm going to play all of these in a loop. I forget how to do loops. I think that's how you do a loop, but I forget. Anyway, so I'm playing right now in the single track output mode, and I see only a single track coming out. So that's all fine and good. And I see the meters going up and down, which is also which is like a slideshow on the stream. But I see the meters going up and down here, and they're smooth on my side. And I guess for next time I will need to like restart the modem or restart the network switch to make sure that the network connection between the two computers are good. I suppose that is the problem. In any case, so if I go to bypass, then I see the meters not moving, but I still see just two outputs here on this mixed signal. And if I go to the multi-track output, then this is not correct because the multi-track output is not outputting to different channels here. So this is incorrect. Let's dive into the source again and try to figure out what could be happening. What the hell? I cannot open the source. Okay, that's awkward. I'm going to save and close and... do you want to save the modifications? Of course, yes. Don't want to lose any work. Seems like there was a hiccup there where I couldn't see the editor anymore, but there were still unsaved changes which could explain the weird behavior. So let's see if we have the changes we made to this part where we see multi-track output, and I'm going to put this window here on the corner, and I'll put this window here on the other corner, and we'll see again what's going on. Oh, I definitely want to see, so I'll put this on this corner behind my face, and I definitely want to see the meters and everything, so I'll play this again. So it seems like single track output is working, bypassed. It also seems to be working. The meters are not moving, and there is only 2 channels on the output. Multi-track output. Okay, so now we have multi-track output. So it seems like the problem was just that the file wasn't saved. So now we see the meters moving, but the outputs look like what they should. They are on different tracks. So what I'm going to do next is actually listen to what's going on here. And let's see if we broke anything. So we will check all 3 different modes of operation, and we'll hear this together somewhat. I'm not sure what the stream is going to do with the audio, because this is lagging on the video, so it may be lagging on the audio as well. I just hope it doesn't sound too harsh. Okay, so let's go back to single track output, and I will make the volume low, and we'll hear this together. See how the Automixer would react. Oh, judging by the meters here in OBS, it seems like the video is lagging, but the audio seems to be okay. You seem to be hearing the audio without any loud noises or anything, at least by the meters here on OBS from my streaming computer. If there is some problem with the audio, you can let me know in the chat. Anyway, so let's hear the effect of the other person coming in and the first person becoming quieter, and we'll see how that looks and how that sounds. Recording example audio, and this is just speaking just the first microphone. Ideally, I would have microphones open in the room. Just to see how the Automixer. Okay, so I can definitely hear the attenuation in the signal as the meters are moving. I can hear the microphones becoming quieter. So that is the expected behavior. Now let's look at bypassed, which should output all the signals from all the microphones, but it should not attenuate. Recording some example audio, and this is now just speaking just the first microphone. Ideally, I would have multiple microphones open in the room. Now I speak of what the other person perfect. Is I can hear no attenuation when the different people were speaking. And when someone jumps into the sentence, I can hear that they are all on the same level. And I suppose, I haven't looked at it, but I suppose that the level goes up when that happens. So let's play again. Recording some example audio, and this is... And I'll start just speaking just the first microphone. Ideally, I would have multiple microphones open. Now I speak on top of what other person. Okay, I think it was very subtle, but it did go up just a tiny, just as much up from just one person was speaking. It was below -18, and then when 2 people started to speak, it was above -18. Just a tiny bit, but it was there. So now let's look at the multi-track output. So I can only hear, and you can only hear, a stereo signal coming out of REAPER. That is because of the way the tracks are set up here on the master track of the output. It's only outputting channels 1 and 2. You can see that the master track is only stereo. And on the stream, you're only hearing stereo. So now when I play this, I should hear the attenuation on the first channel, because I am hearing channels 1 and 2 of this output. So I should hear attenuation happening, but I should not hear the other person speaking. Example audio, and this is first microphone. Ideally, I have multiple microphones open, but that's not the setup I have right now. Okay, to me, it's very clear that this worked, because I can hear the attenuation, but I don't hear the other person. And just for good measure, I'm going to change how the pins work here on this effect, because I want to hear the second person speaking. Oh, I could change the pins on this effect, but I can also, and I think it's more clever to do it this way, I can just change the parent outputs to tracks 3 and 4. No, it should be, yeah, tracks 3 and 4, like this. So with this, I changed the wiring of the track to the master track, from this Automixer track to the master track. So when I play this, I should hear just the second person speaking. In fact, I don't hear anything, but I do see the meters, so I am going to blame my routing idea and not my Automixer. I think that the Automixer is doing the right thing, but I messed up on this routing. Oh yeah, because this is with regards to the parent tracks. So I'm not selecting which tracks I am sending from this one. I am changing to which tracks in the parent I would have sent this, but the parent is a stereo track, so it makes no sense for me to send signal to channels 3 and 4 of the parent. I should change the signal that I'm changing from myself. I think there is a way for me to wire the tracks like this in Reaper, but I suppose at this point I am more familiar with the way to change the pins on the effect itself. So now I am changing the pins on the effect, and these are the inputs. I don't want to change that, but I do want to change the outputs. So now if it looks like this, then the channels 3 and 4 of the Automixer will go to the stereo track. So I will only see the meters on 1 and 2, and I will only hear the second person speaking. I think that's how it's going to play out. And now just on top of what the other person is, just to see how the Automixer would read. And I can hear that attenuation. So I think we're done here. This effect is doing what the person asked me it to do. And I think it makes sense, because now I can, if I am clever about the way I'm wiring this, I can do like sense. So instead of just trying to route like this, I can do sense. So I could have like a separate situation here. I'll close the mixer for now. So I could have a separate situation over here where I would say, these are all my inputs. This is the way they're being mixed. And I'm going to revert my changes to the pins so that they output to all the 4 channels on the parent. This is the original pinning that we had to begin with. So now this should be outputting to all 4 channels, and I should see the meters over here, and I should hear only the first person, because I'm still only hearing the output from channels 1 and 2. Some example audio, and oh, I did not actually hear the second person. Yeah, I did not hear the second person. That is the intention. So now I could have a wiring that is not just sending to the parent, but I could have sense. So I can drag and drop this, and I can select which tracks I'm going to send. Oh, I think I dragged it to the wrong place. So I'm going to retry. So now I'm going to output this to here, and the audio from tracks 1 and 2 are going to tracks 1 and 2. And on this one, the audio from tracks 3 and 4, stereo source 3 and 4, are going to tracks 1 and 2. So these to channels 1 and 2 of this one. So these 2 are stereo, regular tracks. And I put this parent just to mimic what we have here. So we have this nice symmetry. But now when I play this, I'm going to hear duplication. Yeah, I'm going to mute this for now. I'm going to mute the output for now, and I just want to look at the meters. So when the first person is speaking, it goes from here to here, and when the second person is speaking, it goes from here to there. So now I have a clear path of the auto-mixed channels on the way out. And I want to double check. I want to hear that in action. So now instead of sending to the parent, I will not send to the parent. I will just send to these tracks. So when I play right now, I should hear everyone speaking and I should hear the attenuation. Just to double check, I am in multi-track output. Now I'm not, very importantly, I'm not hearing the output from this. The master send from this is off. I'm hearing the output from this. I will prove it to you by muting this. See, I don't hear anything. But now I will hear everyone and they will be attenuated.
Some example audio, and this is now start just speaking the first microphone. Ideally, I would have multiple microphones open. Now I speak on top of what I'm saying just to see how
it seems like this is doing exactly what I wanted. I can hear the attenuation and I could even post-process. So after auto-mixing, I could do some processing of the audio signal. So I could do EQ and compression of the mixed signal. I don't recommend this. I think it's a bad idea to do things like compression of this track would be a terrible idea, I think, because it would be undoing some of the work that the Automixer did, because it would bring up the levels, or more correctly, it would bring down and then it would compensate with some makeup gain, but effectively it would bring up the level that the Automixer has just attenuated. But it may make sense to do things like EQ of this track. I don't think it makes sense. I think it's better to EQ at this level, and I think it's better to do noise suppression at this level. I think it's better to do compression at this level. I don't see a lot of use for this, but now it's more flexible. You can do whatever you want with this signal routing. It will work great. There is one more thing I want to change before I ship this, and that is here on this version thing. I will increase the version number because I have changed this in a backward incompatible way. I don't expect people to use this effect in bypassed because it really doesn't make sense. But what was bypassed became multi-track output, and bypassed is now mode of operation number 2. Because this has changed, I think this is like a breaking change on the Automixer. I will increase this version number. But because I don't expect people to actually run into this, because I don't think that anyone will upgrade their Automixer while they have a setup that is in bypassed, it doesn't really make sense. So I'll not write any code to try to change this. I could write some code to change the slider for you if you are upgrading. But I will not bother with this because I think it's a very, very weird edge case that no one will run into. So I'll keep things simple, but I will add the version numbers. So I suppose that the right version number is version number 2, which is a weird reason to have to upgrade a major version, but that's what we have to do because this is effectively a breaking change. And I will double check in the repository that the current version of the effect is 1.4 or something like that, because I sometimes update and I don't do breaking changes, so I don't bother updating the version number. So Automixer JS effect. So yeah, the version was 1.4, but now it will be 2.0. So now we save this and close, and I suppose we can close this as well. And I will now do the opposite of what I did before. So when I started working on this, I was copying from REAPER into here. REAPER is the repository you see on GitHub, and this is my REAPER configuration. So I was copying from here to there. Now that I am done, I'm going to do the opposite and move from there to here. And note that I'm moving. I'm moving very intentionally because I don't want to have duplicates. So in my REAPER configuration folder, I typically only have one version of the effect. So now I should see some changes over here in Automixer JS effects. Let's review the changes and then I will commit and I will publish this. So mode of operation has changed. We now have a init section with the different modes of operation. We are checking whether the mode is bypassed. We are checking whether we are in multi-track output. And here we upgraded the version number. So overall, a simple change, but it's super powerful. So I am committing this. Oh, this machine is not configured. I have never committed from this machine. So I'll cancel this and I will configure my machine for committing real quick. So it's git config global username. And now I will write the repack changes necessary to install this or to upgrade this. So this is now version 2.0. The script is still in the same folder, but this has changed. Okay, so let's see if I have the git hash for this. I will also push. I will push the changes I just made so that I can click on these links and check that they are correct. So if I click on this one, I do get the version 2.0.0. And if I click on this one, I also get the script. So now I should be good to go. I will double check these changes. I will push this. And typically at this point, what I would do is check that this installs correctly. But I don't have repack installed on this streaming machine. So I cannot do that. I guess I could install repack from scratch and then wait for all the packages to update. But that's kind of annoying. So what I'm going to do instead is check this off stream, and if there is any mistake, then I will fix it. But for now, I think that's it. I just changed the Automixer so that it outputs multiple channels and allows you to do some post-processing of the already attenuated signals. And we looked at some JS effects, we looked at my workflow for working with these things, and we even looked at the repack configuration to publish things. So, and the way that I do it, there is already a repack index thing you can use to kind of automate this process, but I write the XML by hand because I find it simpler to do it that way. Anyway, that is it. That's our adventure for today. I appreciate everyone who watched and everyone who contributes to this work on Patreon and on PayPal. I hope you had some fun. I hope you learned some things about audio processing and JSFX development in Reaper. Thanks for watching. I see you on the next one. Bye.